Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman, neurosurgeon, Fort Wayne, Indiana, for 43 years. But I'm only 39 years old. No, we've been having some health lectures, health shows here for about 3 years now, and this is a continuing series today on creating a culture of wellness. I'm accepting on July 1 a job through the Lutheran Health Network covering 8 facilities, and my job will be to create a culture of wellness. That is my plan. I think I appreciate the opportunity the network is giving me, and no doubt from if you listen to my previous lectures, you'll clearly know that I've been concerned that about 75% of the people that see a physician are frankly, all they need is a coach. They need some coaching. And this is really the culture I'm trying to present. Fortunately, the new Healthcare Act, it will, I think, reward some of the facilities for having a culture of wellness. And I would like to involve, frankly, what's my vision? What is my vision? To involve the whole community. The health providers, the nurses, the doctors, the PAs, the whole Lutheran Health Network, and the patients. And tonight's lecture, the last one that we had was mainly about proper eating, which today will be a great deal a part of it also. But this time we're going to concentrate on the brain. What we eat, how does it affect our mind? Our memory? Does it affect depression, anxiety, autism, ADHD, all these things? You'll find this, I think, a very interesting little talk. A lot of it based on the work of Matt Hyman, very good books to read. In essence, what I'm saying is many of us, many patients we're seeing are really operating with a broken brain, and it's not necessarily based on their thought system, on the things that have happened to them, but a lot of it is based, and it's Dr. Hyman's theory, and I tend to agree, on the food we're eating, the reaction from our gut, the chemicals that we are bringing into our body. For example, it's glutens and certain bacteria and infections and pesticides. And chemicals that are introduced in our homes, our environment, and I'll try to prove my point. What is the mind-body connection? What Dr. Hyman is saying, what I'm saying, what Candace Pert said in her book, Molecules of Motion, that our brain affects our body, and our body affects our brain. How does it do that? Through hormones, neurotransmitters, neuropeptides, and our immune system in our gut. Remember, Gershon wrote a book called The Gut, the Second Brain. Most of our feel-good hormone, serotonin, you know what's made? 95% of it is made in our gut. Yes, in our gut, just below the one layer epithelium that guards our gut. There's all this lymphoid tissue, and the nerves in that make serotonin. So the cytokines in the immune system in our gut in turn make all the neuropeptides that the brain makes. So it's brain, body, body, brain. So how we think can have tremendous effects immediately on our gut and vice versa. Let's speak about, which was my previous lecture a little bit, just to introduce it again, because there are about 7 main factors I think that are involved here. Number 1 is what we eat, nutrition. That's key number 1. And we, again, will mention that I prefer the nutrient-dense diet, the vitamins and the minerals and the phytochemicals, 25,000 mainly from plants. It's a symphony, their rainbow, their mosaic of interaction that leads to good health. Meat products are not your friend. I didn't say don't eat any meat. It's eat less, maybe 20% or so, because they don't carry any of these phytochemicals, vitamins, and minerals. Very few, and are full of cholesterol, fat factors, cancer factors. So if your diet is dominated by meat products, a pretty good chance that you're not going to be very healthy. You're going to be overweight, much more higher chance of having cancer, for example. So I'm speaking about a nutrient-dense way of eating. Number 2 would be inflammation. Our bodies many times are inflamed from the pesticides, the chemicals, and the food that we're eating. A lot of the autoimmune diseases are caused by inflammatory factors from the gut, like the glutens, where the protein in wheat, for example, and in rye is not properly digested, and there's a reaction of your body to it. Your lymphoid tissue attacks this, the cytokines attack this, and inflame the whole body, the brain, the guts, the skin, from rashes to dementia, to seizures. Type 2 diabetes, for example, the insulin will inflame the arteries, will inflame the brain. So type 2 diabetes causes insulin resistance, and that's an inflammatory disease. So inflammation, to fight inflammation through proper eating, nutrition is important. Thirdly, the hormones that we make. Insulin is a hormone, and if you don't eat properly, you're going to have high levels of insulin. Remember, I told you what insulin does. Inflames the arteries, increased chance of cancer, increased chance of dementia. Insulin, you don't want to run high levels of insulin. Many people don't know it, have running low thyroid levels. And thyroid disease is sort of the yellow canary in the system. Many people, 90% of the people, are totally undiagnosed that they're running a low thyroid hormone. So it's the interaction of these hormones that affect the whole body. They are the messengers of our body. And then the toxins would be next that involve in our environment. For example, we take in in our foods about 3,000 untested chemicals, GMOs. Only about 0.6% of all chemicals that we're eating have ever been tested. So we're traveling on the road and traveling. Then about another 3,000 household products that we touch in, that we sit in, that we drink out of. We don't know what it can do to us. And in our meat products, we are full of pesticides, hormones, and antibiotics and growth hormones. And if we eat a steak, for example, we're eating these things. And what do these toxins do to our body? Also, we need to pay attention to our gastrointestinal tract. There's about 500 bacteria in our gastrointestinal tract. And the new foods that we're eating, for example, the grains and the meat products, some of the products that we're eating, GMOs, genetically modified foods, that we don't know, our body does not know how to react to those. So we've been eating very strange food for the last 10,000 years, and through evolution, our bodies have not learned to adapt as yet. What's the rate of evolutionary change in our body? 0.2% every 20,000 years. So we're dumping things into our system of eating. Our gut's not used to it. It's reacting to it, causing inflammation and causing diseases. Next would be the amount of energy that our mitochondria, these are the little factories inside your cell that make energy. We'll discuss that in more detail. It's very important how we treat the mitochondria through proper eating, and that's why many of us don't have any energy, and we'll speak about that. And lastly, the amount of stress that we have, the hormones secreted, the steroids secreted, how that affects our body and the illnesses therefrom. So this is the 7 main points. It's my thought, and it's Dr. Max Hyman's thought too, that we should be speaking more about functional medicine. You know, we name a disease, for example, like depression, and we use Prozac. Well, I tell you, depression is not a Prozac deficiency disease. It involves our whole body, and we should look at what's causing it. So that would be functional medicine instead of just deficiency, one medicine cure all. So I think we need to look at total body function, the hormones, the neurotransmitters, the neuropeptides that are involved with our disease process. The type 2 diabetic goes see a doctor and is having diabetic neuropathy. They hand them a pain pill and a vitamin, and they think they're treating the patient. That's not treating the patient. Getting rid of the type 2 diabetes, teach them how to eat properly, weight control, get to normal body mass index, the diabetes might go away. That's treating functional medicine. That's treating the patient. That's very important. Dr. Hyman calls himself the accidental psychiatrist. Well, what's the point? I mean, the psychiatrist speaking to you, and he's analyzing your brain and find out what's making you depressed. When Dr. Hyman feels, and I feel that's certainly part of our thought process, our anxiety, our depression, it's not just some little deficiency of one thing or another. It's what we are consuming. It's what we're consuming, and how our genetics, our body genetics is reacting to the food that we're eating. The type of protein we're eating, for example, will affect your neurotransmitters. And these neurotransmitters are the language of the brain. The software is the brain cell, but I tell you, the keys that play the brain cell that plays this orchestra, it's what you're eating. It's what you're eating. It's the food consumption that will determine what neurotransmitters that are working. So our broken brains involve anxiety, depression, memory loss, brain fog, ADD, autism, dementia, all affected by what we consume. So this has tremendous influence. There's 60 million people in the United States that have some mental disorder. It's very, very interesting, and it's frightening. I was at the gas station yesterday, and the foods we eat, remember I said affects your chemistry, and I saw 2 people leaving, they just paid, and both were severely overweight. Both hands were full of candy bars, and he was carrying a high fructose corn syrup, a water thing. I could just, enough to see the label, and she was carrying 3 chocolate drinks. Can you imagine? I mean, what effect they would have on the chemistry of the body. All these foods have tremendous effect on the neurotransmitters and chemistry of the body. So what they are consuming is going to affect their brain. It's going to affect their brain. So it's not just a deficiency of any one thing. It's what we eat affects how we think. And it's a very sad thing to say. A very sad thing, frankly, to say. And 20% of the children have psychiatric disorders. Some of them are determined by what they're eating at home. Are they eating a lot of sugary products? For example, 20 million people in this country are depressed. Is it because they're missing one chemical, or are they consuming the wrong food, which is affecting the chemistry of the body, which affects the neurotransmitters? Certainly that's part of it. And so the answer may be to a lot of these illnesses we're speaking about, which all have a name: depression, autism, ADD. Really, the answer may be in your body, not just your thought process or genetics. It's the reaction of your genetics to what you are consuming. Very interesting concept. So what you eat affects how you think. So we need to balance our hormones, and we need to cool off inflation. We need to fix our digestion. We need to enhance our detoxification of chemicals that we treat. Some of us have too much lead, some too much mercury. That needs to be checked depending on environment. Dr. Hyman in his book talks about living in China, for example, for I think almost a year or so, and you know the pollution they have there, and he developed a mercury toxicity. So those things have to be checked. Also. So we're entering the age of nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics. In other words, the reaction of the nutrients that you're eating or not eating reacting to your genes. Your genes will react to what you are consuming. Very interesting concept. So the genes are the software, okay? But the food are the keys that are playing the metabolism of your body. Very, very interesting concept. And some people want to call depression metabolic syndrome type 2. You know about metabolic syndrome where you have hypertension and high LDL or low HDL, insulin resistance. You get 2 or 3 of those. You have something called metabolic syndrome. 70 million people have it. Obesity is part of it. And that predates what's going to happen. Type 2 diabetes, it exemplifies obesity. Many people have this syndrome, don't know it, and they're heading for heart disease, vascular disease, diabetes, higher rate of cancer. They need to see the physician and ask for blood work and to see if it can be corrected. So depression is not a Prozac deficiency. It's based on many metabolic factors in your body. Autism, Dr. Martha Herbert at Harvard, a very interesting concept. She studied autistic children, a very serious problem, and she wrote a paper that was published, and she really feels autism, at least some of the cases, is a body disorder because she found a lot of autistic children have a swollen brain. They have a bigger brain. She noticed that on the scan. They have brain edema. She did some biopsies. They had some information. Many autistic children, she says 90% of them, have a GI disorder. That's odd. Many of them have high inflammatory factors in their body from this GI disorder. And she studied in some detail. She thinks autism is not just purely a genetic disorder. It could be partly related to what the children are eating or how the genes are constructed and how they're reacting to glutens, for example, or other proteins introduced to the body. And there was a published paper. It was peer-reviewed. So it's a very interesting concept. Some people are calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Yeah, why is that? Because a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's disease we're seeing today, people who have type 2 diabetes, for example. Remember, insulin causes inflammation. Insulin causes deposit of chemicals in the brain that make the brain cells sticky so they don't work as good. It's a much higher rate of dementia and Alzheimer's disease and type 2 diabetes. Remember I said in the previous lecture, type 2 diabetes, we have a 90% chance of getting rid of it by dropping, getting to normal body mass index. I just watched a DVD the other day from Dr. Max Hyman, who I mentioned previously, and he has found, you know, I've always said you can get rid of it in 2 weeks. Franklin House said you can get rid of it in about a week. Dr. Max Hyman says you can get rid of, if you eat 100% nutrient-dense diet, you can get rid of type 2 diabetes within a couple of days. He said it. I saw it on his DVD. Just nutrient-dense food, hardly any, some meat product, but mainly nutrient-dense, foods of color, which, and including mushrooms and onions, we have no color, but they're full of phytochemicals. It's the interaction, the symphony, the mosaic of interaction of these phytochemicals, vitamins and minerals that lead to good health. There's a real opportunity, yet I see so many type 2 diabetics hardly any of them know that this is possible. I saw another one today. So let's speak again a minute about fructose corn syrup, which I saw a child today, for example, clearly overweight and drinking a lot of fructose corn syrup. Remember, fructose corn syrup was invented around 1970 by the Japanese, and it comes from corn. It's extremely sweet, extremely sweet. And as you drink this, and of course there's a lot of muffins and all sorts of other foods, donuts, for example, that it immediately heads to the liver. It's not metabolized in the blood. It heads through the blood straight to the liver and is rapidly converted to LDL, the bad cholesterol, and fat. So you don't metabolize it. If you want to gain weight, drink a lot of fructose corn syrup. That accounts for 50% obesity. So you want to get rid of non-diet drinks, no better, because aspartame, all these other things are sweet, and you're going to increase your taste buds for sweet things, and they found a great deal of weight gain even in non-diet drinks. So water and lemon juice, that's what I suggest. And let's speak about addiction a little bit. Food's addictive. It's as addictive as cocaine and heroin. And I saw a patient with it yesterday. Saw 3 patients yesterday, although I'm a neurosurgeon. 2 patients, one lost 20 pounds, one lost 32 pounds, and one of them I treated almost 5 years for a back problem. By golly, I finally this year, I got her convinced. She came in, 32 pounds she had lost, all her rashes on her face and skin all cleared up. Her face looked beautiful. She's on the road. She has a lot to go, but she's clearly on the road. So those 2 make me happy. The 3rd patient gained 10 weights. So I spoke to her a little bit, and she had breast cancer, which already had metastasized, but she was in good shape. I took the one single lesion out of the brain. She was doing fine there, but she kept on having the seizures. Most unusual. So I kept on quizzing her, and she was seeing a specialist in a neurology group about getting the seizures controlled, but still having the seizures. So I found, I think I found the answer. She's eating the wrong food. Her sugar is off all the time. And she told me, she said, "Doctor, I'd like to confess to you." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "You've been honest with me. I'd like to be honest with you. At 2 o'clock, without the alarm going off, every night I get up and I eat food which I've hidden, sugary food which I've hidden the night before at 2, and I eat it till I'm satisfied. I'll go back to sleep at 5 o'clock. My bell in my brain rings. I get up and I do it again at 5 o'clock. He says, "I'm a sugar addict." And certainly she is. And we have to accept it and try to deal with that. And I spoke for her a long time to develop other habits to see if we couldn't get over that. But I remind you, sugar is as addictive as cocaine. So sometimes you just got to stop it totally to stop it, or start substituting some foods. But it's like stopping smoking. If you stop totally, I think it's a little easier, because you keep on feeding the addiction. If you say, "Well, I'll have a donut tonight," the only reason is that you can't just eat one donut, is the reason I told you previously, because fructose corn syrup in a donut goes straight to the liver. There's no insulin rise and does not turn your appetite off, so you can't stop. You just keep on eating. There's no feedback to the hypothalamus to turn your appetite off. And then we already mentioned the toxic chemicals. Remember, 3,000 that we bring into the home through food, at least. Probably many more than that. 3,000 are in household products. Many of them have untested. And we bring in mercury through fish many times. And those levels sometimes need to be checked, because they can affect our thought process, our brain, through neuropeptides, for example. You do need to eat some fat, but it need to be essential fats, the essential fats. And the big one there would be omega-3, which you can get from fish oil, and you can get it from nuts. And you need some every day. I take a supplement for that. I don't believe in a lot of supplements, but to take some EPA and DHA, the fat chemicals, I think a good thing. I have that every day. I think that's a good thing, because essential fats are needed for your hormones, okay, to make them smooth, especially your brain cells, to make them smooth. They also produce anti-inflammatory substances, okay, and some phosphate substances, which are part of your cell membrane. So fats are indeed important, but the good fats, the omega-3, not the omega-6s. You need a few omega-6s, but not a lot of them. So to take a fish oil supplement and to eat some fish, but you like it to be fresh Atlantic salmon or something like that, maybe some shrimps. You can't be eating fish 7 days a week. People think that's a health food. No, it's fat. That's 30-40% fat in fish, and there's some cholesterol and some saturated fats in fish. So it's frankly not a health food. A lot of them today, farm-fed, for example, fish, for example, you got to ask where it comes from. There's only about 2 restaurants, as far as I know, in Fort Wayne, who it comes from the Atlantic or Alaska. Most of it's farm-fed, and the farm-fed fish, where they got them in a little tank, and they feed them corn and growth hormones and insecticides and pesticides and carbon products, and they're not as healthy as you think. If I eat salmon that came from a farm, I can taste the corn in it. I've proven it since to somebody, yeah, because I don't know how, but I indeed do taste the corns. So ask the waiter, where is this fish from? If a lot of us asked enough, they'll start getting it. Matter of fact, I was probably considered one of the top 2 restaurants the other day, and their fish comes from a farm. Their salmon comes from the farm. I could not believe it. I mean, it's a great reputation, this restaurant. You can probably guess where it's at. And the place that I might eat and take friends to, it comes from a farm. Yeah, I took them up on it, but didn't seem to mean too much because it didn't mean a lot to maybe the other people. But ask, where'd it come from? Then there'll be change. People will change because if you don't order it, they will change. That's how things work, you know, no doubt about it. So the omega-3s are very important. Then your cell membranes, it has the PCs, PSs, those are the phosphorus compounds that also come from omega-3. They decrease inflammation and balances your blood sugar, omega-3s. They increase your BDNF, your neuro growth hormones. So omega-3 is like fertilizer to your brain. I mean, your brain is made 60% from DHA, an omega-3 fat. So that 3-pound thing sitting up in our head, it depends a great deal on omega-3. That's why children should drink the milk breastfed from their mother for the first 2 years of their life for the biggest brain. Yes. Have you noticed no mammal drinks the milk of another mammal except us? So milk products, casein, should really not be consumed after age 2 because the diabetes type 1, where you kill the pancreas, increases milk products, a lot more allergies present in milk products. So casein causes a lot of inflammation and allergies in your body, and cancer rates of children go up if you feed them milk products. So this is not a good idea. This would be a very interesting point here. What about the protein? You want to, hey doc, you know, you're not recommending any meat products. Well, you know, some, yeah. But if you eat meat 7 days a week, you're not going to be healthy the majority of the time. Okay, let's speak about that a little bit. Proteins are broken down into amino acids. You know, you eat a steak or you eat some meat, it's broken down to its component parts, amino acids. But animal products carry with it cancer factors, carry with it cholesterol factors, saturated fat factors, while protein from plants don't carry any fat. They don't carry any cholesterol. They don't carry any toxic chemicals. There is more protein in the 100 grams of broccoli than the 100 grams of beef. I had a third-year med student the other day I saw at Starbucks. When I told him that, he just did not believe it. I had to bring a book to him, show it to him. I haven't done it yet because I haven't seen him since. Maybe he's hiding. But yes, there is more protein in broccoli, twice as much actually, 100 grams. Remember, we got to use a certain amount. There's a lot of broccoli, obviously, versus 100 grams of beef. Because it's all broken down in its component amino acids. We have about 8 essential amino acids. Let me just name a few so you hear the names. Tryptophan, methionine, phenylalanine, leucine, lysine, GABA, dopamine, noradrenaline, adrenaline. These are all some of these are neurotransmitters that are made from these 8 essential amino acids. So you need them. Essential means you got to take them from the outside. You can take them through healthy proteins. Remember, we spoke about plants. It can be nuts. It can be the cruciferous vegetables. You see the bottom of my food pyramid. For example, you can get my food pyramid online, and cruciferous vegetable is a highly nutrient-dense food, which will satisfy your appetite. There it is right there. Let's speak about that a minute. You see the cruciferous vegetable in the bottom. Next up, you see fruit. And to the left of that, you see beans. And then to the right, further up, you see nuts. I think you should eat an ounce of nuts every week. And then you see 100% whole grain products. Above that are meat products. And this thing on the right, those numbers are nutrient density, not portions, nutrient density. What I'm saying, meat products are not your friend. You want to be healthy, don't eat a lot of meat products. If you're concentrating on beef and chicken and fish, they're all about 30 to 40% fat. It says, well, I don't eat beef, I eat chicken every day. Well, you're eating, Dr. Furman would say, you might as well eat a donut because it has no nutrients. Do you see those foods that are colored down there? Those are the phytochemicals, the plant chemicals. Why are they so healthy? Because plants use those chemicals to fight off diseases, and when you eat them, you will use them to fight off your diseases. Those products are not located in beef. And you have trouble stopping eating beef, just think about what they do to a chicken or beef to put them on your plate. I told about that, I think, the last show. I'll not bother with you that today. But it's not pleasant if you have trouble stopping. So these 8 essential amino acids, you can get them all from plants. The only supplement you might need to take, B12. But in most food that we eat, there's enough mosquitoes in the food that we get all the B12 we need. But take a supplement of B12, that's fine. And what are the 4 key neurotransmitters? Remember, the neurotransmitters are the proteins that jump between, as an impulse, an axon, bring an impulse to the next nerve, the dendrites. They don't connect directly. So we need neurotransmitters that come down the axon, and then go in the synapse, this interspace, for example, like dopamine or serotonin or acetylcholine. But the 4 main neurotransmitters would be dopamine, serotonin, which make us feel good, acetylcholine, which helps our memory. Remember, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and acetylcholine deficiency, and GABA, which is the relaxing hormone, and glutamate, which is the stressor. So when people drink too much alcohol, sometimes they have a glutamate explosion, and they're just totally out of their mind. And that's a neurotransmitter. So then how you regulate these neurotransmitters is extremely important, and how you feel. So how you eat, what you do, remember? The body speaks to the brain, can affect your thought process. How depressed you are, how anxious you are, how relaxed you are, can all be accomplished through proper nutrition. Let's speak about complex carbs a minute. That's the single most important food. You had a few diets out there, and they think starving people from carbohydrates and eating a high-protein diet is the thing to do. I tell you honestly, those are miserable diets. That's the Atkins diet. I've heard 2 main books, not me, say they're a fraud. The book said it. I'm just repeating what they said. And in essence, you're starving yourself. And when you starve yourself, because you need energy, you need sugar, and so the body breaks down the glycogen in your muscles, and you get about 3 pounds of glycogen, and each pound of glycogen carries 3 pounds of water. So if you got a wedding next week, you'll lose 10 pounds, fine, starve yourself and eat proteins. And because as you use up your glycogen, all the water goes out of the body, and you lose 10 pounds in a week. But the following week, you'll be hungrier than anything. You need to replace the water. Before you turn around, you're up 2 pounds instead of down 10 pounds. I know that's happened to me playing tennis. I get rid of my 3 pounds of glycogen from playing a long tennis match, and I get in the scale the next day, I'm down, or that evening, I'm down 10 pounds. 2 days later, I'm down 1 pound. Okay, so that's glycogen in the water that it carries. Those are not good diets. Low-carb diets, you will not last. You will get hungry. But you want to eat complex carbohydrates. You don't want to take the coverings off the wheat that you're eating. You want to eat whole wheat. You want the germ to still be on there. But you can't. If you're eating white bread, for example, that's pure sugar. White potatoes, that's pure sugar. That's refined food, not good for you. You want complex carbs. Incidentally, a good bread is the Ezekiel bread, like in the book in the Bible, Ezekiel bread, because it's made from nutrient-type plants. Tastes actually very good, and you'll find it in the freezer section of your supermarket. Very good bread. Very good to have toast in the morning, for example. I think it's very good because we all need some bread. What runs the chemistry of the neurotransmitters? What clears them out of the synaptic space, for example, so you can get new ones in there, for example? It's called methylation and sulfation. And these methyl products that come from your DNA, they run the neurotransmitter chemistry of your synapses. So it's very important because, remember, your neurotransmitters, 100 trillion of them, incidentally, will decide how you feel. How you feel is determined by your neurotransmitters. Your memory is determined in little vesicles inside the axon, little round balls that have about 3,000 chemicals in them each, and they go into the synapse and they determine your memory. Each cell has projections from it and called receptors. Each cell has about 40,000 receptors. Unbelievable amount of receptors. So we have a tremendous amount of interaction of neurotransmitters and receptors. The receptors are built out of protein. So the receptor health will determine a great deal about the protein we are consuming. An addict, for example, those receptors die. So and they're badly needing serotonin and dopamine. They're traveling down here. They don't feel good. Nothing means anything to the addict. Mother, father, brother, sister, society, God means nothing to an addict because they're traveling down here. It's a disease. Addiction is a disease. The beginning may be a conscious decision, but once they become addicts, they cannot help it. That doesn't mean you feel sorry for them and try to treat them, but that's the reason I say avoid addiction. Don't accept that narcotic prescription unless you get a broken leg or cancer, because if it leads to addiction, you got maybe 5% chance of shaking it. While we're on that neurotransmitter discussion of needing dopamine, serotonin, which is the addict is trying to get. I mean, cocaine, heroin produces dopamine, serotonin, makes them feel better. That's the reason they take it. So what I'm describing to you, the metabolic pathway of neurotransmitters, and that is influenced by the vitamins you take. So take some supplements. A multivitamin is important. B12, B6, folate help run the metabolism of your neurotransmitters. So to take a supplement of a B complex, for example, fish oil, for example, vitamin D, about 2,000 units at least a day. Or check with the doctor if you want you to take more. Those are very important. And then we speak about oxidation. Oxidation, you hear about that. And oxidation really is when the proteins in your blood combine with the sugars in your blood. If you're diabetic, for example, they form ages. And these ages are deposited in your 300,000 miles of blood vessels, which you have, the capillaries. And that's what causes dementia. That's what causes blindness. That's what causes heart disease. That's what causes bowel disease. That's what causes peripheral neuropathy. And those things that you find in type 2 diabetics. Glutathione is the best antioxidant. That's what avoids oxidation and to fight this chemistry. See, energy is produced in the mitochondria. Remember, mitochondria in every cell of your body. It is produced by combining sugar. Insulin gets it in the cell, and it makes ATP, your energy molecule, and CO2. This is the energy molecule in your body. And we'll speak more about that. So depression and dementia are linked a great deal to what we eat. They're linked to folate, B12, B6. So a depressed individual should always be checked. Make sure they have all the necessary vitamins and minerals in the body and eating a proper diet. And some need medication, no question about it. If you're on medication with depression, stay on it. Don't dare stop it without checking with your doctor. But it's worthwhile to try nutritional aspect. For example, if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're way overweight and your chemistry's out of whack and you're a depressed individual, which a lot of type 2 diabetics are, you ought to, frankly, follow the nutrient-dense diet, get rid of your weight, and you may find out, you know what, your depression went away and don't take any pills. But don't you dare stop them on your own. No way. This has to be done in conjunction with physicians. What are the cytokines? Cytokines, you hear about that. These are chemicals that are made by the immune system, for example, in your gut, and they affect your immunity. And for example, if you're eating the wrong food, the gut starts acting like a sieve, and some of these proteins are not properly digested, and they enter the bloodstream and cause tremendous inflammatory reaction. Cause celiac disease, for example, affects the chemistry of your brain, for example. That's why some people with gluten problems will indeed have dementia, seizures, unusual mental conditions besides skin conditions and gut conditions. So what you eat is tremendously affects the health of your body because it has to transgress all this lymphoid tissue that's one cell layer in the gut, and bang, you're in the lymphoid tissue. And if your lymphoid tissue does not identify what you're just eating through evolution, doesn't identify what you're eating, there'll be reaction, either acute acute reaction, or a lot of them are chronic, delayed, and you can check that by checking people's IgE, which is the acute reaction in the blood, the autoimmune reaction, and the long-term, the IgG blood test will determine whether you're having a long-term reaction, like a lot of the gluten illness. So the cytokines are the language of the immune system. They are hormones are the language of the hormonal system. Neurotransmitters are the language of the protein system. So very important to consider what we eat. And let's talk about boosting your energy metabolism. Remember we spoke about the mitochondria. You have about 200 to 2,000 a cell. They're very small, and they are the ones that take sugar and convert it to ATP, sugar, oxygen, convert it to ATP, and water. And they're extremely important. And the rainbow diet we spoke about is the best defense against loss of energy. You want to boost your mitochondria, eat a nutrient-dense diet. You boost them. You become much more energetic. That's the way I eat. I weigh 140 pounds, 139 pounds, and I feel very energetic. I didn't always eat that way, and I used to weigh 165 pounds years ago. But I eat all I want. My plate for lunch today was just boom, like that, nutrient-dense food. Never gained weight on it because the food's got essentially no fat in it. And it doesn't rise my blood sugar up because it's hardly any sugar. The complex carbs, I lose 40% of my food probably in the stool because it's full of fiber. Fiber is your friend. Fiber is your friend because it will not allow the absorption of a lot of food, a lot of cholesterol, for example. Fiber is your friend, so it's not calories in, calories out. Depends what you're eating. It depends what you're eating. And of course, this metabolism, for example, of the mitochondria is influenced by vitamins, minerals, by lipoic acid. Q10 helps the mitochondria work better. So that's a good supplement to take. Lipoic acid is another one, carnitine, and the proper vitamins. We spoke about B2, B3, B6, B12. These all help drive the metabolism of your neurotransmitters and mitochondria. And NMDA is a neurotransmitter that is located on your DNA. It's an on and off switch for your cells. It is affected by what you're eating. So sugar really is an excitotoxin. You eat more sugary products, you notice how the kids get more hyperactive. So sugar has tremendous effects on your psychiatry. Resveratrol, which you hear about in wine and grapes, for example, does have an effect in calming you down and longevity. And they fed animals, like a huge amount of resveratrol, and they live a lot longer. But you'd have to probably drink 1,000 glasses of wine a day, and obviously that's going to be the case. So I'm not against having 2 or 3 glasses of wine a week, but I wouldn't do much more than that, because before you know it, you're drinking 6 and then you're 10. So resveratrol does have some longevity attached to it, but I think I kind of stay away from that subject in general. And you want to avoid oxidative stress. If you're eating a lot of food, there's a lot of metabolism going on between oxygen and insulin in your mitochondria that causes oxidative stress, and an electron will jump off the molecule and result in oxidation. So oxidative stress, which food can produce, has a terrible effect on your body. It's like browning of your cells, like rusting of your cells. So be careful of what you're eating. It causes tremendous oxidative stress in your body. Brain cells can indeed rejuvenate themselves if you're eating the right food. We have neuroplasticity, ability to build new brain cells. We can help avoid destroying our brain cells with proper diet. I've done a tape on it before, I personally think that dementia can be avoided in the majority of people most of the time. You can go to my website, Cash My Mind Body. I've got a little brain on the left, lifting weights. Hit that. That leads to a dementia page. I mean, you get enough stuff in there to last you for 6 months, how to keep your brain sharp. If you were to do that and eat a proper diet, there's 20 suggestions on how to stay, keep a sharp brain, mind-body index on there. I think very useful. Alzheimer's disease is not as common as people say it is. It's nowhere near as common. But a lot of people have, they call it Alzheimer's disease. It's dementia. It's a process of aging. At age 85, 50% of the people have significant problem with memory loss. But what I'm telling you is look at my page, and if you practice these health habits, I think you get a 90% chance of avoiding it. I'm totally convinced of it. The people I see with early dementia, and many of them overdiagnosed, don't tell. So, for example, the other day at the country club, I was leaving, I saw a doctor I've known. He's 87 years old, and he missed a couple of words talking to me, but what difference does it make? I expect that. I didn't react to that. Meanwhile, his wife is down the steps telling my wife that, my husband has Alzheimer's disease. Ridiculous. He don't have Alzheimer's disease. He got dementia of aging, and he eats the wrong food all the time, and probably that could have been totally avoided. So don't throw that term around. Because how'd you like to hear you got Alzheimer's disease when in reality you don't have it? Before you know it, they'll lock you up in Gulag 1 and Gulag 2. I think a lot better to give a hug, teach them how to eat right, exercise. That'll cause neuroplasticity, cause the brain cells to grow. My site is full of things to help your brain to grow. And in terms of exercise, let's talk about that a little bit. What is helpful? I like you to walk 30 minutes a day if you can, if the time. Some of us can't. Some women have got 5 kids, and the other kid at home wants dinner ready at night. But somehow you got to find a little time to exercise. Another one I like to see is to lift some light weights at least every other day. 10-pound weight, 5-pound weight. In other words, we lose our musculature about 2% a year, 2 or 3% a year, and it's critical for our balance and our health. The more muscle you have, each pound of muscle will burn 50 calories a day. So if you gain 5 pounds of muscle, 250 calories a day getting burned just by muscles sitting there, not even using them. So I do work out as a species of Planet Fitness at least 3 days a week, sometimes 4, and try to keep. I'm not asking you to build the muscles that they look big. Mine aren't looking bigger, but I tell you, there's much fat on them, and they're strong. It improves your balance, improves your metabolism, leads to good health. It causes neuroplasticity. Yes, exercise causes neuroplasticity. Your brain will grow. Today we're speaking about the brain, so it causes BDNF, and it will those hormones will cause your brain to grow. So to keep a good memory, exercise is important. And you got to stress your heart a little bit. I'll tell you an easy way to do it. You don't have to be a marathon runner. I don't want to be running necessarily. But when I work out on these machines at Species or Planet Fitness, I will figure out what my cardiac rate needs to be to exercise at. And that is usually determined by, it's 220 minus your age times 0.8. Mine turns out to be about 110 or so. You can figure out my age from that. and I try to get my rate above 210 for 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and I put a little hill on my treadmill, and so it can happen quickly. And it go like a son of a gun, and I put the highest hill on there, for 30 seconds, then I rest for 90 seconds, or just keep on gently walking. And I may do 5 of those on the same machine, or I may jump to 5 different machines. I'll use the walking, that's the 90 seconds, and again, rapidly get above 110. What that will do, when you improve the CO2 max of your heart, that makes it easier for your heart to contract, and you live longer. Your blood pressure drops. It's easier to metabolize the sugars and glycogen in your body if your heart is stronger. So you like to, and that's called intermittent, high intermittent training. High intensity intermittent training, HIT, a very good thing to do. If you do up to 10 of those, that's tremendous. But don't go for an hour on the treadmill necessarily. I say 30 seconds, rest 90, 30 seconds, rest 90. Almost anybody can do that. And I've noticed that I can walk a lot faster now and, don't feel like going. And so I think it's a good way. And we spoke about lifting some light weights and maybe walking 30 minutes a day. If you're then let's talk about stress a little bit. In your mind, which we spoke a great deal about, stress will cause a reaction in your body. A tiger's running at you, that's acute stress. Okay, let's take the zebra. The zebra is a lion comes in, chases them, catches one, eats them. But as soon as that's done, the rest of the zebras go back and they start grazing. They don't act stressed at all. But we carry the stress on forever. We have ants in our brain. Automatic negative thoughts. I got plenty of them. All the things I go through every day is a surprise. No, that's why I play tennis, work out, and do some breathing techniques, for example. A good thing for stress, use the Herb Benson's relaxation reflex. Just sit there, visualize something pleasant, dancing, walking the beach, whatever, and take about 10 slow, deep belly breaths. Practice how to do it. With the breath in, let the belly drop. And you would be amazed how much your blood pressure drops. You'll be amazed how much better you feel. Yesterday morning it was raining a bit outside, but not horribly so. So I went under a tree and I listened to the sounds of the birds in nature and the frogs and everything a little bit. Jeez, was that relaxing? Was that ever relaxing? That would work if I stayed inside and watched the morning news and all the problems of the world, do you think I would have felt the same? No. So take spaces, moments in time. I stop at, at Starbucks or one of the fast food places to get a cup of coffee. I don't drink much of the coffee. I sit there to read a book or write a book. Just to relax, talk to some friends. So to take pauses in the day is very relaxing. We all need to do that. And it's very important. So figure out how you're going to do it. Turn on the music somehow. You can't just raise 5 kids and spend no time to yourself to relax for a minute. Another thing I do as soon as I get in the car, I turn on music. Man, I'm driving down the road and I'm conducting an orchestra. Chris Body's playing the trumpet, and my mood changes in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds. So I think music is a good thing. Take up dancing. Take up dancing. I did that. I was in Dancing with the Stars. You know what? That thing's been over a year ago. When I'm in an elevator and there's nobody on it, guess what I'm doing? My dance routine. It can't stop it. Can't stop it. So I think things like that, that's relaxing. So to control your stress is very important. Or just take, 3-4 times a day, especially if I notice my blood pressure is perfectly normal, except when the activities of the day or stress comes along, it raises up. As soon as I turn on some music, I sit, take some deep breaths, I walk out in nature, bang, 120/80. So it's important for us to use stress reduction techniques, because you're stressed out all the time. Eventually, it can just wear your neurotransmitters out and it leads to depression. It happens. So get the ants out of your life, your automatic negative thoughts. Most of the things that we think about don't happen. On my website, too, are Rudy's 20 prescriptions for stress reduction. You can print them off from meditation to breathing techniques. You know, meditation is a good thing. Where you sit there and if you can't quiet your mind, mindfulness, you know, to get your mind on the moment, just on the moment. What's going on right now? Not the past, not the future. What's going on right now? Breathe about 10 deep belly breaths. And if you can't quiet your mind, and use a mantra. A mantra means mind energy. So repeat a word or something favorite, you know, your religious leader or whatever, or one of your loved ones or whatever. Use a word. Guru Devnamo, that's the most famous mantra there is. Meaningless to me. But if I say it about 5 times, my mind quiets down. I'm thinking of nothing. Thinking of nothing. That's mindfulness. That works good for pain too. Some people have chronic pain, want to take a narcotic all the time. But if you practice mindfulness, just think of the present moment, you'll find out you stop decorating your pain with the past or the future. And man, it's not so bad. Not so bad. Something that, you know, it's worth trying. So balance your hormones. You know, what are your main hormones? Insulin. Remember I said insulin is not your friend. And because it paints your arteries, makes your brain cells sticky, increase cancer rates, and causes arteriosclerosis. So very important to control your insulin by proper eating. If you're type 2 diabetic, get your normal body mass index, 90% chance you don't have it. Have your thyroid hormone checked. I think that's a good one. 90% of people out there are running low thyroid and they don't know it. You have loss of energy, you feel depressed, sometimes you sleep too much, sometimes not enough. So checking the thyroid, I think, is important. And then the stress hormone. So America, we run too high stress hormones. Food is pharmacy. Food is pharmacy. You eat something, your body reacts. And if your evolutionary body isn't used to it, it'll react to it. It's our genes, our genetic structure will react to a foreign substance. Remember, we have leaky guts. And if that protein faces the bloodstream, the lymphoid tissue, it's going to react to it, cause inflammation. Maybe just in your gut, maybe in your body, maybe in your skin, maybe in your heart, maybe all over your body. Maybe you get MS, maybe you get dementia, maybe you get autism, maybe you get ADD. Some of these all dependent on what you eat. I didn't say 100% are. I'm saying part of them are. And so remember, the cytokines are the language of the immune system. So let's summarize things a little bit here. Number one, what are the 7 keys that I want you to know? Proper nutrition, nutrients, diet. Let's reduce the inflammation in your body by avoiding the chemicals that cause inflammation in your body. Let's regulate the hormones. Let's check a steroid level. Let's check our insulin level. Serum insulin is a good test to take for diabetes. The best test to see if you've got type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetic is to swallow 75 grams of sugar and check your insulin and sugar level 1 hour, 2 hour. Best test. That predates diabetes, tells you what's going on. Let's check your gut. Maybe you need to have the bacteria checked in your gut, for example. Maybe you need to check for gluten proteins, for example. Let's exercise regularly. Let's increase our energy by considering our mitochondria. And let's practice exercise and stress reduction. So I think I've given you an overview about how your nutrition can affect, and your mind can affect your anxiety, your stress, your depression. So that body can determine a lot of how you think and diseases that you have. It just, and the brain speaks to the body, and the body speaks to the brain. Very important things to realize, and not just accept a name of a disease. Let's figure out, where did it come from? Where did it come from? Let's cure the thing it came from. Let's cure the thing it came from, and you may get rid of this illness. It's sure been fun speaking to you tonight, and I hope you see our next week's show, we'll continue along this line. I thank Lutheran Hospital for helping me create the culture of wellness in the community and among the providers and among the patients. And we're going to really change things in this community in health. I love you all. Thank you for listening.